Hey everyone, welcome to the Photo Business Success Podcast. I'm your host, Morgan, with my co host, Megan, and we are talking about why you should not rebrand your photography business.
But when she says talking, what she means is ranting.
Yeah, that was what I was about to say. I am so sorry for how this episode is going to go because I'm sure that it's going to go a little off the rails because we both have so many feelings about this, very strong feelings. And
Mine
um,
aren't feelings, they're facts.
okay, well, that too, but about why this is such a bad idea. So, Megan, do you want to start?
Yeah. So, why you shouldn't rebrand or why rebranding is a bad idea. So, I'm going to say, this is probably one of the least obvious reasons, but to me, it's the most important. And that is when you are constantly rebranding, it's usually because you are going with whatever is trendy right now. There's nothing I hate more than that calligraphy font or one of those 18,000 calligraphy fonts in the logo or on your website, period. I won't if it's an accent, maybe, but that tells me that you're out of date. And the problem is that what you're going to do is you're just going to jump into whatever else is hip and new. And then after that,
Mhm.
you're going to jump into whatever else.
Mhm.
No one works on just classic brands anymore. And it's to me, it's confusing, it's childish, it's unprofessional and kind of immature to there's nothing that screams amateur more than like that calligraphy font. And before that it was whatever. And it's and y'all do this with your photos too. You style your photos every time you change your brand, you go with whatever the new hip thing is. It's now it's not film anymore because it's the Jason Vincent style. And before that it was whatever, it's stop, just
By the
stop.
way, we're not calling out Jason Vincent. We love him.
No,
That was
like
just the first name that came to mind. I'm
it's
sure.
the problem is that you are not Jason Vincent. So don't adapt your photos to be his style, just like you don't adapt your brand to look like freaking every other photographer's brand. And
Mhm.
also esthetician, the woman who waxes me, she has that in her font. The cute boutique that I always walk by also has that font. And
Mhm.
it's literally so 2016. And yet it's still, we are in 2025 by the time this episode goes live, 2025. And I'm telling you that in 2016 those calligraphy fonts started coming out. You probably don't remember that. You were probably in elementary school. I wasn't. That's how long that those calligraphy fonts, I don't mean you, Morgan.
I was in college and learning about fonts at that time. I'm pretty sure I have a YouTube video about how to use fonts properly in your brand that we can link to. I'm 99% sure I have one, and if I don't, I'll make one before this comes out. But I think that's where I was talking about branding. I can teach you, I'm a graphic designer. That is what my degree is in. I will teach you how to use fonts properly because guess what? I specialize in branding. That is what my degree is in. It is graphic design with a focus in branding. And nobody loves branding more than me. My best friend from college will tell you that she will do anything organizational and I will do anything branding. And together we can conquer the world because we did not like to do the same things. To go back to constantly changing your brand, you don't have a big enough brand for people to recognize your logo every time you change it and recognize your name every time you change it. If you
Amen.
are if you are constantly changing, people are not going to think it's the same thing. And guess what? Photographers have really similar photography brands. Actually, funny enough, when I was working on my branding, there is somebody in Nashville who has the same first and middle name as me. So I couldn't use that, which thank God I couldn't. But because she had the first and middle name as me, so I couldn't use it. And so there are so many people with similar names in their businesses that if you're constantly changing, then you're not going to know who to relate it to. I'm gonna go back to like my graphic design days to like give a good example, and I'm not gonna name names for legal purposes because I don't want to get in trouble. I worked with a band who, for every single album and every single that came out, they changed their freaking logo. I it drove everyone crazy, and their name is not super unique, and they had like two big hits at that point, but we're like, you need to stop changing your logo every single time because people don't know it's you. And management was like, this is what they want. This is what they want. So guess what? I had to change the logo every single time. And I had many people say like, "Hey, this is the same band, right?" Yeah, it really is. I promise. They just are changing things because they want it to match this certain look at that moment. You can't do that. If you are not a huge name and people don't know the name of your business, like if you're not Target, if you're not Starbucks, like don't change it. And guess what? They don't change theirs.
Right. And
They
like imagine if Target changed their brand as often as you've changed your brand. Like you'd probably stop shopping there.
they have style guides like from somebody who has worked in corporate, who has worked for big name companies and for big artists. Everybody has a style guide that you have to follow to a T, and for us to overturn it is a like massive deal. And so you should be taking that same approach in your business. As somebody who specializes in branding, I've literally changed my branding once. And all I did was get rid of something that one of my teachers requested that I didn't want to do to begin with. And I changed the color to fit more in line with my new branding or with my new style. That was in 2017. It is 2025 when this releases. Haven't changed it. And I don't plan on it.
And guess what? You don't have less clients because of that.
No, absolutely not. And
You
it's
have
not
more
going to help
clients than
you
the
get
average
more clients
photographer.
either. The new
That's such
style's
a
not
good point. Can we talk more about that? Like branding is not to help you get more clients. Like Morgan, like what is branding for?
branding is to help your identity. It's to help you be this like essence, I guess is like the best way to put it, and for it to like say something about your services and say something about what you offer, but like constantly changing it is just going to confuse people. And so by thinking that like you're going to change your branding in order to like get more clients, that's not what it is. Like that's not going to help you. It's the representation of your business.
I can't remember who said this, but it was somebody great said is what people say about your company when you're not in the room.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
and by the way, like that touches on I didn't mean to take it in this direction, but like that touches on a really important point that like your visual brand is actually one of the least important parts, your actual brand. Your brand reputation is the most important part. And
Absolutely.
going back to Morgan's part, if you're constantly changing it, how are people going to be able to visually connect you with the reputation if it's like you there's like an old business card of yours floating around?
The visual is just the trigger of what like that the essence of your business is, and like the reputation of your business. It's nothing more than the trigger. And like I hate to say that because I love branding so much, but that's what it is. Like you need to evoke these feelings of
Mhm.
what what your brand represents and the reputation you have. And so like that's why you have it.
And by the way, like that goes into your brand is like your tone of voice in your website copy,
Mhm.
which should carry over into your social media copy. The like it's little things as well. Like my boyfriend and I went to a wedding a couple I guess I don't know, maybe like 2 months ago now. And the photographer was wearing a certain thing. And it made me feel a certain way about like who he was as a photographer. And like some people are like they go the all black route. And by the way, like I'm not commenting on that. Maybe that's another episode, for another
Yeah.
time. All black. Some people it's like blend in with a wedding dress, wedding guests. Sometimes it's like look professional, like wear like a button up and slacks and whatever. And like those are all decisions that you're making that influence your
Your
brand.
brand.
And
Absolutely.
also like it should all point back to each other. Like if your website is super professional, my recommendation would be that you show up on a job super professional. Your headshot looks super professional, that
Mhm.
the photos that you choose like reflect on that, and that your logo is that as well.
Yeah, it all goes hand in hand.
If you're using like a highly editorial style on your website, but you show up in all black to a wedding, those two things don't go together.
A
Like highly
disconnect,
editorial is like, I expect you to be fashionable. I expect you to
right.
be like popping off, and like that's going to feel incongruent,
Yeah,
and we don't want you to do that. Like, so stop. Like the original point of this is like stop changing your brand, but like I think maybe more realistically, what we would love to see you do is to like stop changing your visual brand and like bring everything
everything
into
together.
integrity with itself. Like make sure that
Absolutely.
your is indicative of what people will find on your website, which is indicative of what they will find when you show up on a job, which is indicative of the way that you talk on social media, and
Mhm.
the way that like anybody on your team carries themselves around other people as well. Like
Absolutely.
brand is not just you, it is every person. It includes your second photographers. People don't think about that, but like when I second shot for
Oh, I
people,
do.
I would ask so many questions. Like I was annoying about it. How do you want me to show up? What kind of like what do you wear? How will you be presenting yourself?
Yep,
Some photographers are very reserved because like that's part of their brand. Some are like very bubbly, some
yep,
are friendly but not bubbly, and like all of that should be part of your brand and the way
absolutely.
that you think about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's more than just the visuals, even though, like, that's what I get caught up in because that's what I was trained to do. But it goes into so much more than that. It's like how you show up and how you represent your brand, and all of it has to be cohesive because if it's not, it feels like it's chopped up and, like, mashed together, and that's not going to be like a high level brand. If you think about like I'm just gonna use like let's just say like Nordstrom or something. Like a high not high end, but like it's a like more put together brand and all of their like they have a serif type face that is like, that's like elegant and then, you walk in and their employees are dressed nice and the clothes they sell are nice. Like it all goes together cohesively because that is what their brand represents.
I think a really good example of this, and we should probably wrap up after this, but a really good example of this is recently, like in the last couple of months, we saw people be very upset about I'm going to mess up the American way of saying this, what?
Jaguar.
The Jaguar
I
brand
don't say it that way
rebrand.
either though.
How do you say it?
Jaguar.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Well, the Jaguar brand. And the interesting thing is, like, what we saw is that people are like, they're responding because it doesn't feel like that classic British brand that it's supposed
Mhm.
to represent. So like people rebelled against it. I mean, like the response was basically pure vitriol. And the reason is that it didn't feel like what they want it to feel like. It doesn't feel luxury. It doesn't feel like this truly classic anymore. I mean,
Right.
like I remember my mom, who knows nothing about cars, can like spot a Jaguar like that, like because she loves the lines. She just like
Yeah.
there's something about it. And I mean, like this has been for decades. Every time she goes, "That's a nice car," always a Jaguar,
Jaguar.
always. And so like that's just like think about how much consistency they have to have had for so long, not
Mhm.
not just in like their their logo and the type font and like whatever, all of those things, but even in the way that their lines are over decades. This is a long time in cars. Like cars change a
Yeah.
lot that time. And that all is part of the brand. And that's why it's so important that you think about your brand as more than just your logo, your website, the
Mhm.
colors that you're using. Those are very important parts, and we don't want to diminish the importance of those. In fact, we're actually elevating the importance of
Yeah.
your whole brand, and that's why you have to stop messing with it. Like it's fine. Maybe in at your 10-year anniversary, that's a great time to tweak it. Maybe that's when you like say, I know better what my identity is now, and we're going to make a shift, or we're going to turn a corner, or whatever that looks like. But like, I promise you, doing it every year, you don't
It's
know enough about your identity as a brand over the course of a year to be continually making those changes.
And like just to echo that and like give an example, I 2025 is the 10-year anniversary of me having my logo. I have not changed it, not changed my branding, and I think it like I can tell you like the whole history of like why my brand looks the way it does and give you reasoning behind all of it because I know my brand inside and out now. And if you're not able to do that, there's a problem. Like you need to be able to explain why it looks the way it does and like basically defend it because that's important. And you want like your clients should be able to like spot it in a room. You know, like they should be able to know what your logo is. It shouldn't be a guessing game every 2 years. So that was just we wanted a quick episode on that because we touched on it in the last episode because I thought we had talked about it. We hadn't. I'll be sure to send Megan that link to put in the show notes about typography and like how to use it properly in your brand because I do think that's very important and not something that a lot of people know. So I'm gonna send that over and yeah, we will link to our group in the show notes along with the wedding multiplier toolkit. And I think that's everything, right, Megan?
That's it. See you guys next time.
Bye, guys.